Hello and welcome in to the Week 3 edition of the Right Angle Sports College Football Show. 2 weeks in the books. We're on to Week 3 here on the RAS College Football Show here on the YouTube page. I'm John Martin. He, of course, is the great Eddie Walls. We're here to hopefully pass along some expert insights and predictions to help you stay ahead of the game. And Eddie, we're going to come out swinging, brother. Before we get into the slate this week, we want your best bet. And we want it now. We can't wait until the end of the show. What's your best bet this week, brother? Coming out hot.
It's going to be game 137-138. Washington State under 56.5. Anybody that knows me knows that I handicap coaches more than I handicap anything else. And I have Jed Fish, and he has a pretty inexperienced offensive line. Pretty good pass defense, but the run defense might not be great. I'm not sure about that. It's very inexperienced defensive line. He did bring a lot of guys from Arizona with him. I have a feeling the tempo in this game is going to be very, very slow on the Washington standpoint. It has been in both their first two games. And then Washington State has an absolute great defensive-minded head coach as well. A little bit of rain in the forecast. I just think that this game's tempo is far too slow. I don't think that either one of these coaches want to get into a shootout. This is Washington State Super Bowl. I would love to take 4.5 with them. It's just that my numbers won't allow me to. I'm much lower on the total than 56.5, and I have been all week long. It's kind of worked out for me. I thought that it would go down earlier in the week. It got bet up to 57 and then went right back down to 56 and 56.5 right before the show. So it worked out perfectly for everybody. I just think that the defenses are much further ahead than the offenses in this current spot. Washington State lost both their great wide receivers and Cam Ward to the transfer portal last year. They're kind of starting over on offense. John Mateer seems like a good quarterback, but we haven't seen him against a real defense yet. We saw him against Texas Tech, who doesn't have a defense. Portland State. I also think we're getting a little bit of overreaction from them putting up big numbers on teams without any kind of defenses whatsoever. So, yeah, I like that one a lot.
Yeah, it's hard to push back in this day and age against an under, generally speaking. Like, I'm not going to fight you. Like, you give me a reason to bet an under, damn it, I'm going to bet the under, okay, sure. With the tempo and helmet comp. So there you have it. That's Eddie's best bet, the under in Washington State. You see it right there, game number 137. Real quick before we get going, as you guys know, the format is we break down some of the prime games of the slate. Eddie is fantastic, one of the best. He's just one of several pros on the team at Right Angle Sports. Right Angle Sports is busy this week. More releases are on the way. 31 plus FBS plays and 3+ more extra FCS plays left. Both options available at raspicks.com/CFP. The CFB to order plays today. All right, let's kick it off. We've got Thursday night football on the college side as well, Eddie. Arizona State versus Texas State. Texas State, the group of 5 upstart. They, oddly enough, have been mentioned as part of maybe this Pac-12 revival, as one of the potential teams if they want to plant a flag in Texas. This was it opened at Arizona State -3. It's come all the way to Texas State -2.5, total of 59. Are you on anything here, Eddie, in this game?
Yeah, I mean, I'm on Texas State. I got plus money. I think like anybody else that bet in the last few days. If you like that side, it was rather obvious to you. I like Arizona State and what they've shown me so far. But I mean, they also faced 2 teams at home that are kind of rebuilding. Wyoming with a brand new quarterback who doesn't look up to par so far. Mississippi State is a complete reclamation project. It's going to take a couple of years. This might be Texas State's Super Bowl. Let's face it. How many times are they going to play on ESPN on a primetime slot? This is probably it. They're going to make a statement. It's got to be here. They could probably go undefeated in the Sun Belt, lose this game, and still possibly not make the playoff this year. It's kind of a down year for the Sun Belt. So they got to put it all on the line here. They have a very good, talented coach in G.J. Kinney, a lot of returning production. Jordan McLeod, Sun Belt Player of the Year, transferred over as quarterback. Arizona State is going to be all run. If Texas State can stop the run, then you mean to tell me the Michigan State quarterback, Levitt, is going to be the one who's going to have to beat me there? I don't trust his arm. I feel like Texas State was the only side that I was looking at here. Maybe incorrectly so, but I've got closing line value on my side. Let's see if it holds up.
Yeah, with a game like this, it's so interesting because there's been such extreme movement. I mean, obviously, you mentioned you got it at plus money. Could you still recommend the side at -2.5? I mean, just how different would you say that is from the number you bet?
Yeah, it's thin for sure. I mean, I
Okay,
think I made it. I think I made it -2 or -3. So
okay,
I probably wouldn't play it at. I wouldn't play it at 3. Maybe a very very tiny bet on 2.5.
okay.
Just because you like the subjective measures in this game, everything that I mentioned. But I mean, I wouldn't be running to the window to lay a number 2.5 here.
Right. I like to kind of explore that, right? Because especially with
Yeah.
movements, such extreme movements to one side, all numbers are not created equally. I think I hope, as most people know, but just in case they don't. All right, moving right along. Arizona taking on Kansas State, and we have Kansas State as a -7 favorite in this one. Are you on anything in Kansas State, Arizona -7 with a total of 60?
Yeah, I'm also on the home favorite here. I bet Kansas State at -7, so it's still there. I just trust Kleiman at home more than maybe any other coach in college football. He has a track record that really proves that he's a darn good coach, and he does pretty damn good things with not a lot of talent sometimes. But this year, Avery Johnson, who is still young and who still is going to make some mistakes, has a really big upside. They did very well in the offseason, all the grading that I did. The offensive line took a step back because they lost BB to the NFL. But overall, I have no reason to believe that this Kansas State isn't the same powerhouse that they've been the last 3 or 4 years. Arizona, we just talked about Washington. They
Yeah.
lost a lot of depth. When Fish left to Washington, he took a lot of players with him. He took their number one rusher, took most of their defensive line. The Arizona defensive front is not very good, as we saw against New Mexico. New Mexico could do anything they wanted to against them. I mean, when you're giving up 500 yards and 38 points to New Mexico, that's not a team I'm looking to fade. I mean, I'm not looking to back. The one quality that you do have for Arizona is you have a tremendous quarterback and a first-round draft pick wide receiver. So it's dicey when you're fading that kind of talent. But I couldn't find any superlatives that make me like Arizona enough to where I couldn't stay away from just laying this number.
Understood. So there you have it. Okay, moving along. Memphis going on the road, 2-0, and they see a winless, unranked Florida State team that has fallen from grace. Florida State, we're going to say, is out to 7 with a total of 53.5. This opened at 5. The total has been hit over. What do you make of this? It was supposed to be much more interesting, I think, than it has unfortunately turned out to be. But what do you make of this game, Eddie?
But you live in Memphis. What do you make of this game? Because you have to know more about the Tigers than most.
Yeah, so I mean, it was supposed to be a crack at a real heavyweight, and I think a chance for a watershed moment for the Memphis program. And now it's almost turned into a game that is going to look bad on your resume if you lose. I realize they're underdogs, but when you're talking about the road to the playoff, the margins are pretty thin, especially when you see what Boise did last week against Oregon. I mean, that was a valiant effort and a valiant loss that's probably going to age pretty well. Unlike this Florida State loss, if you end up taking it, I mean, they're probably a 6-win team. So I think it's sort of in terms of you're trying to make a case for the playoff in the group of 5. It's getting crowded and it's getting tough. I think for me, Memphis sort of says all the right things about their defense. It's impossible for me to know if it really is different. I mean, they played North Alabama, who has maybe the worst quarterback in all of college football, and they played the backup quarterback in the Troy game last week, and they handled business. But again, it's like I haven't seen them stress tested yet, Eddie. And I think, when you start talking about the difference in athleticism and size and speed, I think this is potentially one of the games where it shows up.
Yeah. This was really interesting for me because I am not comfortable backing Florida State currently. If I see a team that puts up a lot of effort and loses a game that's more talented than another team, such as Georgia Tech or Boston College, let's face it, the people that Florida State's recruiting, Boston College can't even get an interview with those kids. So when I see teams like that lose 2 games in a row as really heavy favorites, I have to pause on them. I dropped them about 30 spots in 2 weeks. I don't think that Memphis has a defense. I'm just going to
Right.
put it out there. Like,
Right.
I would like to believe that Chris Herring, the kid that they got from Tennessee, is an all-world linebacker. But when you look at the secondary, what they did in the transfer portal, just off the top of my head, I think there was like 3 or 4 guys there from lower Sunbelt and JUCO programs. I don't think that that's going to make much of a dent. Like you said, they haven't faced an offense yet. You're getting a hell of a discount on a total here. If we were to play this game in week 1, this total is probably in the mid 60s. Now we're talking mid 50s. Now there is some rain. I didn't get involved with anything in this total. I wanted to see how the weather shaped up for Florida State. And I was going to play over. It's getting close to where I'm probably just going to end up passing on this game. If you like Florida State, you have the biggest discount that you're probably going to get until we talk about a later game. If you liked over, you probably feel pretty good about it right now because they're finally facing a team that doesn't play extremely slow. They have a quarterback at Memphis who's probably going to end up in the NFL. He's probably the best G5 quarterback in Hennigan. They've got real weapons at wide receiver. This is a great game. I made this game 5.5. When it got to 7, I was like, do I want to take Memphis? I don't know. And then it got to 7.5 very briefly, but it was like minus 120. And then I have to tweak my numbers and try to justify why I'm paying 20 cents on a half, So I just didn't feel comfortable in the game. But I mean, if you like great quarterback play, you'll get it on Memphis's side for sure.
Yeah. Last thing on this, I do have some 52 and 53. Okay. I did play some. So, I mean, for those reasons that you mentioned, I think one of the things that the Memphis OC was talking about in the first 2 games is their receivers had been double teamed in these first 2 games. And so they've just taken what the defense has given them in the run game. That's about to change. You're going to see a lot more one-on-one. So I do think whatever Memphis has, you're going to see, a lot more of that offensively speaking. They are a top 10 rated offense in some metrics. So I think you see that in this one.
No, I like the over for sure. I think I just got too hesitant, It's just one of those things where you're sitting around waiting for weather, and next thing you know, it's just like the number keeps on moving up.
Oh, I know. It's a sick feeling, right? You look at a number, you like it, and then it moves. You're like, I can't do it. It was sitting there at a point and a half lower. Now I can't take it.
Right.
Really a sick thing. But anyway, it should be a very fascinating game. 11 a.m. on Saturday. What a rematch we have on the docket. Colorado State, in a game that I think was far better, an instant classic last year than anybody anticipated. It's Colorado -7 at Colorado State with a total of 58. Is this game going to possibly be able to match the one from a year ago? I know Colorado State's chirping. They said, we'll see how far Instagram gets them.
Yeah. I have a friend of mine who I really respect. I'm not going to say his name, but he's a legendary handicapper. And he sent me a text saying, how isn't Colorado the biggest bet I make this year? And then he broke it down for me. And the All-American wide receiver for Colorado State, Horton, is questionable. Doesn't know if he's going to go. The quarterback, Nicolo C. Fowler, has been par at best in his first 16 starts at the college level. I'm sorry, first 14 starts at the college level. They lost 3 offensive linemen last year. They lost their best defensive tackle to Florida State. Then they lost their linebacker, their do-everything that killed Colorado last year. He went to the NFL. Colorado State struggled very, very bad with Northern Colorado. All that being said, as 31-point favorites, they only scored 31 points. That should tell you that maybe they were looking ahead. Mm-hmm. All that said, I just feel like there has to be better places for me to put my money than Colorado right now. I mean, I've watched the first 2 weeks, and I really don't know what has changed about this program. I mean, they went out and spent a ton of money on the offensive line and defensive line and NIL guys. I don't think they got the right guys. There's something not right here. And then the defensive tackle that was doing everything for him, the guy they got from Pitt, he broke his wrist last week. He's got his arm in a sling. The other Sanders DB, not Shiloh, I guess it's Shiloh Sanders. He's out. I mean, I just feel like I'm making a guessing game of what Colorado is at this point. They didn't look good against North Dakota State. Nebraska did absolutely anything they wanted to in that first half, and then just went into a shell in the second half, knowing that they had them right where they wanted to. And they were just, it looked like exactly the same exact team that we saw last year, where Sanders is on his back every other play, no run game. I guess I could make a point for under because I do feel that you can run on this Colorado State front, which you couldn't last year, and vice versa. I think the Colorado, without that defensive tackle, you could probably run on, and it's going to be a slow pace game from Colorado's side unless they're behind. But yeah, I mean, I'm at like 57.5 and 7.5 Colorado. So, I mean, it's somebody's, best bet of the week, and I'm probably missing out on it possibly, but I can't put real money to donuts on Colorado anymore. I got to see, I really have to see, what this looks like longer than just 2 weeks. And maybe Colorado State's so far down that Colorado, can trample them, but I don't know.
Yeah. Ryan Roberts asked in the chat, Colorado team total a look here, maybe.
You mean over?
I would assume so.
Yeah, I mean, I guess. But I mean, I think that they're going to try to run the ball more and probably have a little bit more success against the front. When you're talking about they went against North Dakota State and Nebraska. Now they get to go against Colorado State, who's kind of got a rebuilt defensive front. I think it might be a little bit of a slower game plan. I don't do team total, so I don't know what the team total would be.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, I would probably just stay away personally. I guess I lean under, if anything, not team total, but just total on the game personally. But yeah, I don't know. Feels like a guessing game to me.
DT plus the points asks from Memphis as well. That number is way short, but just can't back Uiagalelei.
Yeah. I think that you're on the same side as everybody else when it comes to that. It's how much do you trust Florida State and how much do you trust DJU at this point?
Right.
I mean, in the summer, this game is line 14, total probably 63. Now you're looking at 6.5. I mean, it's pretty cheap. So
it's tempting. It's tempting, but I think I want to get my eyeballs on it before I with the side. I need to see if we've had some holy water during the break. Let's keep rolling here. Got a couple more games to get to, and if you guys have a question, certainly let us know in the chat. I think this game used to be called the Civil War. I don't think we call it that anymore in 2024, but it's Oregon versus Oregon State.
Did they get rid of the Civil War title? I had no idea.
I swear I saw something
on
Wikipedia when I was looking at this stuff. They're like formerly Civil War.
Oh, wow. It's getting weird. It's getting weird.
Might have claimed that one. This is actually a right angle release. Right angle released Oregon minus 14. It's out to 17 with a total of 51. It feels, Eddie, like just a complete fade of a listless Oregon State team with a new staff that just hasn't looked good. And maybe an Oregon offense that's been brewing and bubbling and is ready to put it on somebody. What do you make of the release in this game?
Yeah, I mean, I love it. I mean, I just can't believe I watched the San Diego State Oregon State game last week, and San Diego State, they have an all rebuilt offense. I mean, all rebuilt defense. And their focus in the offseason when it came to the portal was trying to find bodies on offense because Sean Lewis wants to revamp that entire program, get them going fast. He didn't really care about the defense. Oregon State won the game 21-0. But the bigger story was that Oregon State really couldn't do much on that bad of a defense. They couldn't do anything in the first week against the FCS opponent either. True freshman, a JUCO quarterback coming in there. He's more of a runner than passer. The Oregon State, both defensive line and offensive line, have massive advantages here. I'm not really sure how Oregon State scores on this team, to be quite honest with you. I can't really find any positives for Oregon State other than the fact that this probably is their Super Bowl, just like Washington State. I mean, if there was one game that they really, really want to hang in there and make a game, this is the one. I mean, do you really think that they're focused on playing Fresno in week 8? Maybe, when they get there. But I'm sure this is the game that they talked about all summer long. This is the one that they had circled. And it's really, really hard place for you to win. And, it's a tough home environment for sure for Oregon to go to. But the level of athlete in the first year rebuild of what is going to be the Power 6 or Power 8, right now it's just the Power 2. It's a total rebuild, I mean, and the only person they have left on the staff was the defensive coordinator that they made, head coach, kind of in a hurry. So, yeah, I mean, I don't want to be backing Oregon every single week, but this definitely felt like a good spot.
Yeah, definitely. And then finally, Notre Dame, Purdue. Notre Dame coming off of just one of the more baffling losses that you'll ever see in college football the week after going into Kyle Field and Marcus Freeman getting one of the best wins in college football. So he's the owner of maybe one of the best wins in college football. He's the owner of maybe the worst loss we'll see in college football this year. So quite a couple weeks for Notre Dame. They're now on the road at Purdue, -9.5 with a total of 45.5. What do you make of Notre Dame in this one, Eddie?
Well, if you like Notre Dame, you have the biggest discount in 1 week that I can remember in the last couple of years. The baffling thing about Notre Dame is when you look at the box score from last week, you say, wow, Northern Illinois, which is a run-first team with that much of a quarterback, ran the ball for 195 yards. It's not too bad when you consider they ran the ball 41 times. It's not that big of an average. But wait, how did they get the ball 41? How did they get the chance to run 41 times? Notre Dame couldn't stop them on 3rd and short. Northern Illinois absolutely won that game in every facet of it. Like, it wasn't a fluke, situation or anything like that. If you watch the game, they are pretty much in control the entire time. And Northern Illinois has a very, very good secondary, probably one of the better G5 secondaries out there. But the fact that now in 2 games, it's pretty clear to us that Riley Leonard cannot throw the ball like maybe some assumed. They're very one-dimensional on offense. And with that offensive line having 2 tackle injuries, how confident are you to lay points with Notre Dame on the road in a game that's kind of a rivalry? I don't like Purdue. I mean, I'm going to tell you that. I looked over them at the summer, and anybody that was really, really good on them got plucked away by bigger programs. They're all, their All-American defensive end is at Texas A&M, wide receivers at Oklahoma, yada, yada, yada. But I mean, I just think that this game 2 weeks ago is 14, 15 points. Maybe 16, and now you're looking at 9.5. It's very attractive.
Yep.
But I mean, what am I betting here? I'm betting the under, if anything, because I already know that Notre Dame isn't going to go out there and throw the ball a ton.
Right.
And, they're going to play super conservative.
Yep.
But 45.5 with Purdue, who's going to be throwing the ball, whether they're having any success with it or not, because that's the system that they built. I know they're going to try and run the ball more this year. I doubt they're going to try and do it on this front. I don't know. I don't have anything here. I think it's one of the more interesting games that we'll see this entire week. And it probably tells us a lot more, for me personally, about Purdue than it does Notre Dame, because I think I know what Notre Dame is now. I was concerned, if you remember, 2 weeks ago about the offensive tackle injury there.
Yep.
2 weeks later, we're talking about how they couldn't stop Northern Illinois' defensive front. So, tough.
Yeah, indeed. Well, the way this works is you gave out your best bet to start the show. Yeah. And last week when we started this, I mean, you couldn't have done a better job. You give out a play, it gets great CLV, it wins. As for me, I give out a play, I lose 2 points of value and the play loses. So, it just really worked out perfectly for me. Let's see if we can make it 2 in a row. We're going to the big boys. We're going to the SEC, and we are going with the Georgia Bulldogs. Game number 189 minus 23.5. 6 points at home last week against South Carolina and that quarterback. I believe these 2 teams a year ago when this was in Georgia, it was, I want to say it closed 15. I don't think this is nearly enough of an adjustment with that quarterback, Vandegrift at Kentucky. I know they're going to play multiple quarterbacks, but this Georgia team is picking numbers. They essentially get a bye week last week with Tennessee Tech, right, the way the schedule breaks. I just don't see any way this Kentucky team scores. I think it's going to be a Georgia Bulldog party. I don't care that it's in Lexington. That doesn't matter. This team just doesn't look to me, Eddie, like it has had much of a drop-off at all. Offensively, defensively, they're a well-oiled machine, and I think they're totally prepared to go into Lexington and cover this number. So, look, if this is 21.5 in 2 hours, I'll be really impressed. I'll have done it again, but I'm laying big numbers. Last week I laid 21 with Oregon. That was never even close. I do think this one gets home. I'm going to say that. I think I'm going to even my record this week, Eddie.
All right. I'm rooting for you. I'm also on that side. I was on Kentucky under last week, man, and I thought I was cruising, and then Vandegrift was throwing screens 6 yards over the guys' heads, screen passes 6 yards off. If that guy's a 5-star, then
He's horrible.
I don't
He's
know,
horrible.
man. That's a
So
real rough look. I mean, you paid him all
yeah,
that money to come there, and he does not look. It looks bad right now. Um, yeah, it just seems like the worst spot in the world, right? Like you lose 38 to whatever, 31 to 6 against South Carolina, who doesn't have an
that's right.
offense. And then
Yes.
you get the breaks of getting to play Georgia the next week. Like,
Yeah.
oh man.
Potentially off an open week as well. So
Yeah.
yeah, I'll lay the 23.5 here and feel just fine about it. Hey, we're back. We had some questions. Look, let's do that before we get out of here. Ryan asked, any take on Bama, Wisconsin?
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, like, I don't know what's going on with Wisconsin. I don't understand why they have Phil Longo as their offensive coordinator if they're going to call plays at 29 seconds per snap. That's among the slowest in the country. And Tyler Van Dyke has not looked like Tyler Van Dyke. The first week I was willing to bypass. I'm like, okay, they played Western Michigan. They maybe didn't want to show anything. They got up, 10 points, I think it was in the fourth quarter, ended up winning the game by 14 or something like that. Didn't come close to covering the number.
Yep.
But last week against an FCS team, they looked worse. And there's something going on there. The defense is probably really, really good. But I was very suspect this entire summer of how Wisconsin's offense was going to be better when they lost Skylar Bell to UConn, who was like their number 2 wide receiver. And I didn't really buy that Tyler Van Dyke was the better quarterback. I think they just paid him a lot of NIL money. The fans' expectation was we have to see improvement in the offense. I thought that Lockie was a better quarterback. Alabama, on the other hand, they did not look good against USF last week. And I'm going to tell you, I watched that game, and I think USF should have won that game. I mean, if Brown hits on a couple of those passes right there, Alabama's trailing in the fourth quarter. And that's an awfully, awfully young offensive line that's missing their offensive tackle, same as we just talked about with Notre Dame. Also, you lose your best defensive back to Ohio State in the transfer portal. You're kind of starting over there. I mean, if it's not for Jalen Milroe, how many people can name 3 or 4 players on Alabama comfortably, easily? It's not the same star-studded lineup. Now it's going to be going forward in the future, but for right now in week 3, I don't feel comfortable with them. I came very, very close to playing Wisconsin just because I think 17's a lot.
Yeah.
Or I'm sorry, 16's a lot. If I got a 17, I was definitely going to consider it pretty seriously there. I think it's a lot of points to play on the road. The under got hit, which made a ton of sense to me, obviously. What about you? You got anything on that game?
I have nothing. I mean, listen, I like the idea of Milroe and DeBoer. Little concerned with how closely they kept it with South Florida. I mean, I am high on South Florida, but 2 straight years of kind of toying with them. It's not really a game I'm looking to, when it takes you 3 3/4 to pull away from South Florida in a physical game like this, I'm not super interested either way. One more, feel like Dion will try to run up the score if they can, just to try and save some face.
God damn right he will. I mean, if he has that kind of ability, I mean, what have you seen out of the Colorado so far that makes you think that they can run up a score? I mean, I'd like to see them take a lead first in the first half. They haven't led at halftime yet, and they got absolutely blown out by what might be a very special Nebraska team. That's unbeknownst to me. I mean, we're going to find out on Nebraska very soon. But I mean, if Colorado has the chance, I mean, like if you're a live bettor and Colorado goes up 28-7 in the third quarter, if you think that Dion is going to kneel on the ball for the fourth quarter, you're probably in for some bad news. That's kind of what led me away from getting on the under, to be honest with you. That goes both ways. I mean, if you think the Norvell with a 14-point lead, which is unlikely, if you think that he's letting off, there's no chance. I mean, both these teams really, really need a win and kind of some statements. People forget that Norvell is the highest paid coach out of any G5 in the entire country, and he's yet to reach a bowl game. So if he can get a signature win here, especially by margin.
I don't think I knew that.
Say what?
I don't think I knew that about Norvell.
Yeah, highest paid. Not even close, I don't think. So,
wow.
Yeah, Colorado State paid him a ton of money to come from Nevada, and I think that they overlooked the fact that he had an NFL quarterback and 2 NFL wide receivers that made that offense so good. He's come to Colorado State. They built him a new stadium, and the returns have been terrible.
Yes, they certainly have. But, it's a rivalry game, so You always have to keep that in mind. razpicks.com/CFB is where you want to go if you want to order that package. 31 plus FBS plays, 3+ more extra or FCS plays are left. Get that package. raspicks.com/CFB. Eddie, great stuff as always. Enjoy it. Best of luck to you and to all of you for tuning in the week 3 edition of the RAS CFB show. Good luck, and we'll see you next week.
All right. Thank you so much, guys. Good luck.